Hi, I'm Beth. Welcome to today's yoga class. It's been a while since I've done restorative yoga, so this is going to be a restorative yoga class. When I do restorative yoga, I like to keep it simple. So we'll start with some breathing, some breath work or pranayama, and then we'll do a restorative yoga pose. I will show you the pose, and while you're resting or relaxing in the pose, this is yoga to relax, I will do a reading. Today's reading is going to be from this book by Sharon Salzberg, The Force of Kindness, and I will link to that book below. So we are going to do this practice prone, which means lying on our belly. You'll see me turning my head to look at you, but you don't need to turn your head when you're lying face down. You can take your fingers and form a little diamond shape to rest your head. You can cross your arms to rest your head on your arms. So even when I look toward you, so I'm looking toward the camera, feel free to keep your face down in any position that is comfortable for you. Okay, let's come to lying on our bellies for our breath work, which is going to be prone breathing. So stretch all the way out on your belly, legs out behind you, and as I said, your head resting on your arms, on that diamond shape of your hands. I'm going to start resting sideways. So for our prone breathing, what we want to do is feel the breath in the back area of our body. We're so used to thinking of the breath in the belly and the chest. 60% of our lungs are actually on the back of our body. So as we lie here, simply want to take our attention, our mind-body connection, to the breath in our back. So I'll be quiet for a few seconds, allowing you to just notice the breathing. For about 2 or 3 breaths, simply notice the feeling of the breath in your body, concentrating your attention on the breathing in your back body. And perhaps as you look at the screen, you can see my back body, my back ribs, the parts of my lungs that come against my back, rising and falling. By lying prone like this, it gives more space for us to breathe into that back part of the body. And because we're doing it against gravity, we're strengthening the breathing muscles a little bit. A few more times like this. If your head is to one side like mine is, you can turn the other way. And a few more. When you're doing this on your own, you might count your breaths. At some point, count how many breaths you have naturally occurring in about 30 seconds. And then that will help you time your poses. You can time your poses, or if you know, for example, 5 breaths is 30 seconds for you, then you can hold for 10 breaths for about a minute. I'm going to put my head back down and let's take about 2 to 3 more prone breaths. You can continue with the prone breathing. We will stay face down for our restorative pose. Our restorative pose will be half frog. So we're doing a half frog face down version. I'm going to scooch away a little bit so you can see my left leg, the one that is closer to the camera. And remember, your torso, your head is staying down. I'm just looking up at you. We're going to bend the knee. You can start on whatever side so that your leg comes out to the side like a little frog leg. Now, the exact look of your frog leg is going to depend on how it feels in your body. Remember, this is a functional yoga practice, so it's not about how it looks, it's about how it feels. So that might mean that your knee is lower down from your hip. That might mean that it's farther up, more toward your shoulder. It might mean your foot is more out from your body or more in toward your body. Those different placements are just going to change the feeling in your hip. So we're looking for a little stretch along this outer hip, but a really gentle version. So once you find that version, you'll place your head down or forehead in your hands, and you can continue with the prone breath and lie that way. I'm going to come back up to seated so we can start the reading. So make sure you're comfortable. In restorative yoga, there might be a slight stretch, but we're really not going for the stretch. We're more going for the support of our body with something. In this case, the support of our body with the floor, and allowing our body to completely sink and rest into that support. So here you're completely sinking and resting into the floor. And you'll continue that as I do the reading, and I will let you know when the halfway point is that you switch to the other side. So Sharon Salzberg is one of my favorite people in terms of Buddhist place philosophy. She talks a lot about the idea of metta, which is loving kindness. And so in this chapter, I'm going to read, it's her chapter on how we see the world. And some of what she talks about here felt very appropriate to me for the things going on in the world today. She starts out by saying, in talking about suffering, what causes it, the chance that we each have to come out of it, and the way to do that, the Buddhist teaching is never removed from a sense of humanity. The Buddha himself, as a human being, ultimately was talking about what it means to be a human being and to be happy, and a radical sense of happiness. The teachings honor and respect the possibility of happiness, so that the idea of achieving it is not something tinged with fear or shame or squeamishness, as it is our common plaint, oh, I don't know if I deserve to be happy. The Buddhist belief is that everyone at heart wants to be happy, that we should be happy, and that we in fact can be happy as human beings in complete, real, tumultuous lives. Everyone longs at heart for a feeling of being at home in this body and mind in this life. Everyone wants to feel a part of something greater than their limited sense of self. If we look carefully at any action, even a powerful, unwholesome action, we can sense that within there's an urge not to feel so separate, to find an elusive form of happiness, to find a sense of uniting. Even if we look at addictions or violence, at the root, we sense an urge to feel something different, significant, real. Though it manifests in terrible and damaging ways because of the ignorance that distorts that wish and leads us to look for happiness where it will never be found, the basic wish for happiness is constructed in within all of us. It can be aligned with wisdom instead of ignorance. That urge becomes our homing instinct for freedom, allowing us to cut through many obstacles. But one of the first things we need to do is to be honest about the pain. We acknowledge our pain, not to get more depressed or to drown in the suffering, but to see the truth of our experience. Not just the superficial truth of passing circumstance, but the deeper underlying truth. Looking into the heart of pain, we feel joined to others. We see that while everyone wants to be happy, we are all vulnerable as life moves and shifts and stirs all of the time. We see that our lives can transform in an instant to something unrecognizable from what we anticipated when we woke up this morning and began the day. This is true for all of us all the time. This recognition lifts up and leads us to compassion and its unique happiness, which is connection. So I'll pause here so you can switch sides. Whichever knee you had moved up toward the side, toward your hip, your frog leg, Slide that leg back down to meet the other. Take a moment to tune back into your breath if you had lost the sense of paying attention to your breath. Make sure that you're comfortable in your body. And then begin to bend the opposite knee, rising that knee up. Remember that the leg is staying flat on the floor. You're simply bending the knee out toward the side of the body. It might come parallel to the hip. It might be a little lower. It might be a little higher. Your foot might be in closer to your body, more like an actual frog-looking foot, or it might be a little away from your body. All of those positions are okay. You're looking for the place that maybe gives you a little bit of release in your hip, but that really feels comfortable, that your body is supported to the ground, and then you can sink into the pose on this side. Release as I read the rest of this chapter. Okay. It's easy to be unconscious. It takes something very compelling to turn us around, to turn us away from all the easy, complacent answers society offers us about how to live. This is what the story of the Buddha's life is all about. It is said that there was a prophecy at the time of Prince Siddhartha, later the Buddha's birth, saying that there were two possible ways for him to go in life. One was for him to become a world-reigning monarch, and the other was for him to become an awakened one, a Buddha. On hearing this, his father, wanting his child to be a monarch, decided that he was going to protect him from having to see anything unpleasant. In this way, the young prince would just enjoy his life and not be moved to question more deeply. The legend says that it was at age 29 when the prince actually left the palace grounds and saw for the very first time an old person, a sick person, a corpse, and then a renunciant, which was his call to awakening. He set out to seek a truth of happiness that would stand the test of time, of change, of sickness and loss. Opening to our own suffering can lead us to try to seek a better way, a more meaningful life, a deeper understanding. It's like a call to awakening, to not spend our lives defined by someone else's determination of what our limits are, to not mindlessly live out the conventional understandings. It propels us to comprehend what lies behind the closed doors of others' lives, to be willing to see their joys and their sorrows, and to be motivated with powerful commitment to support the highest possible happiness for them and for us. It wakes us up to compassion and kindness. Compassion is defined in Buddhist teaching as the trembling or quivering of the heart in response to seeing pain or suffering. Along with love and altruism, compassion can be seen as warm-heartedness replacing cynicism, beneficence taking place of indifference, caring supplanting aloofness. These qualities strip away the rigid divisions between us and invite us to take another look at ourselves and at the world around us. One key to the development of compassion seems to be in learning how to step out of our normal habit patterns and connections to our pain. Forging the right relationship to pain is very complex because suffering can be a tremendously powerful teacher and an opening. But as we know, it can also be the cause of terrible anger and separation in a multitude of forms. We can be filled with loneliness and antagonism because we're in pain. We can feel a lot of guilt when a state of grief, condemning ourselves for something we did or something we didn't do or something we didn't say. We can feel cut off and resentful of those reaching out to us because we're hurting and they don't seem to be. And we certainly can blame ourselves for being weak and inadequate when we try to make a difference in a world that needs so much help. Any degree of suffering can be experienced as overwhelming, a sealed room from which we see no protruding edge to provide a toehold and facilitate escape. Compassion gives us that toehold. allowing us to see our own pain and our witness of the pain of others as a vehicle for connection rather than isolation. It allows us to open rather than to close down, to have an entirely different understanding of the possibility of a special kind of happiness, even in painful and challenging times, and of the role that kindness plays in realizing it. So that's the end of the reading. You can stretch the second leg back down so that both legs are stretched out long. You're remaining prone on your belly. And in this position, sometimes I like to give my legs a little stretch, to stretch one leg out as if somebody was gently holding my ankle and helping me pull the leg, almost like it's coming out of the hip socket a little bit. You might need to raise it up an inch or so off the ground to do this. Then you can lift the other leg and point your toe behind you. Feel as you're stretching out the same way. If you want to do that one more time, you could also reach out the opposite arm as you stretch the opposite leg. A little stretch to the torso of your body. You can stay lying down and rest for a little longer here. Or if you want to make your way up, you can finish the practice seated with me. So restorative yoga has so much of a benefit for allowing us to relax, to settle into our bodies. I offer it here with a reading so you can relax your mind too, and listening to my voice. Perhaps let go of whatever is going on in your mind, or let it settle to the background as you draw your attention to the voice of the reading. I have a whole playlist of breathing plus restorative yoga practices like this one. I'll link to that right up here for you. I hope that you found this relaxing and soothing in some way. Thank you so much for joining me with this practice. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.